Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Simply Trade Roundup. My name's Annik. I am your host for today, as I am all the time for this roundup, but I'm not in my studio, as you can tell if you're watching the video portion of it. We are at ATCC, the Advanced Topics in Customs Compliance Conference. And actually, funny thing, guys, I have a sign in front of me that says that because I've been butchering the name all day. I don't know how you do it, but that's something I do. And yeah, we're in Houston, Texas. This is the third day, so we're leaving today, actually. But we've had a great conference so far, and maybe we'll get into that. But I do have a guest with me, as you can also see if you're watching the video, and his name is Joshua Beker.
That's right. Happy to be on here.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
You are from R&K Law Firm.
That's right.
And I'm butchering that as well because the name I cannot fully pronounce. I'm so sorry to the owners of this law firm.
It's okay. Robert's Kehagiaras.
Yeah.
So I'll just
put
that out
so
there
much
for everybody.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And ahead of this episode, before we get started into our conversation, I want to address one of our sponsors, Tax AI. They've been so kindly sponsoring this podcast, and we've had long-term ties with them. So I just want to extend my gratitude out to them. Also, Global Training Center, of course, who is making this all possible for us. Now, we are obviously also at the ATCC conference. So just want to give a shout out to them because it's been an amazing conference. We've been doing some awesome interviews. And yeah, so you probably watched those on LinkedIn. But let's get started because I have a special guest here and I'm so glad that we've met, which actually wasn't in a good way.
Well, I don't know. I think cookies are a great way, right?
Well, they're sponsors at this conference, and I had not heard of the law firm before, but they had cookies, and definitely those draw me in. I tried to resist, but it's impossible. 3 boxes of cookies that are actually sourced from Houston, which is nice.
That's right. Yeah. We worked with a local baker to kind of get some things together. Wanted to add a little bit of a local flair, I guess you could say.
Love it. It's great.
Got some cookies.
Right. Well, enough of the simple talk. I guess I'll get into the deeper questions now. So you're a trade lawyer. What do you specify in? How do you say that?
Yeah, specialize. Yeah. So I, for the most part, I handle our firm's, I guess you could call it the customs practice. So I do a lot of the import work, full, range of import compliance stuff, everything that you expect, the classification, origin determinations, rulings, all of that good stuff. I also work closely with our customs brokers, though, that we help out. I really want to do a lot of their E&O work, help them out when they have issues on behalf of them and their clients, helping them with their licenses, audits, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my role in the goal scheme of things, I guess.
And trade lawyer, not something anyone just wants to be, I feel like. I mean, I did not hear about that. People want to be in criminal law or family law. Sure. Trade law is not something we hear often. How did you get into it? What was your path getting here?
So it's interesting. So probably like a lot of people, I kind of fell into it originally. Right. So I was in law school, working through school as well.
So you knew you wanted to be a lawyer?
Yes. Well, actually, if you want to take this a little bit further back, I decided I wanted to become an attorney kind of around in undergraduate, actually. And law school is a huge commitment, and it's expensive, and it's time draining. And what I saw as a huge red flag of law school in general was lawyers are perceived in a certain way in media. I wanted to make sure that I know it's not real, but I wanted to make sure and see what it's like. So I worked at a law firm between...
Like what? Perceived as what?
Well, you have like your shows out there like Suits, Boston Legal, whatever, right? And, obviously we all know that that's not real life, but, nonetheless, I wanted to see what real life was. So I worked at a law firm for some time before making the decision like, hey, I like law firm life. Let me jump into law school. So that's what I ended up doing. Went to law school, kept working at that firm, stopped working at that firm for...
Gathering experience.
Yes. And I decided to focus on school. And that decision lasted me all of 3 weeks before I was applying for another job. And the only job actually that was open at the time on our school's board, because it was off schedule or whatever, was at a trade law firm. And I was like, that actually sounds really interesting. Yeah. Okay, and so I started talking to them and realized that this was a really great field where it's like, wow, won't get stuck with that criminal law thing where it's like, I'm doing the same thing day in, day out. Yeah. Every day is different. Like even if the product is the same, the country of origin might change if the analysis changes, right? So I really stuck with that. And it's actually been a really interesting decade, I guess, now, because I have people reaching out to me all the time now on LinkedIn or other places like that, when I go to law schools, they want to be trade lawyers now. And I find that to be just such a fascinating change in the environment. Like, I had never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. I literally came into it on accident, and now kids go to school for trade law.
Right.
I think that's
Well,
great.
first of all, Lincoln Lawyer. I watched that, and I
Yeah.
think that is a
Yeah.
great. I mean, that makes me want to be a lawyer
Okay.
a little bit. I
Sure.
think it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's like a
That
badass kind
TV
of.
show or the movie
It's
version?
Netflix. No,
Yeah,
oh yes,
that's
yeah,
right. Yeah, there's
Netflix show.
okay, yeah.
Love it, and there's actually a new season, guys. If you watch it, please reach out to me. I'm like really obsessed, but I also don't have time to watch it anymore, so I don't know when that's
Gotcha.
gonna happen.
Gotcha.
But if I'm thinking about it, you said people now want to become trade lawyers, and they're reaching out to you. And I recently got a question. They won't be picked up. I recently got a question from someone on LinkedIn, and she said, I'm a lawyer and in the cross-border, whatever, but I want to become a trade compliance lawyer. And I'm like, what? And she's like, could you help me jump into it? And I'm like, how are people wanting to get into this field right now? And do you think the current environment of this industry has something to do with it?
Yeah, big time. I mean, the current environment is 100% everything to do with it, right? So I passed the bar in 2018, right? And that was, it sounds like a long time ago, but that was back when the first set of 301 tariffs came out and everybody was losing their mind, right? Because the average duty rate in this country back before then was 2.5%.
Mm-hmm.
Cost of doing business, right? Who cares? It's 2.5%.
Yeah.
Slap 25% on there. Now suddenly people care. And now we're on round 2 of this, talking about 100% in some cases. That's really important, right? So you got a lot of folks really digging down into it. I think the trade environment is playing enormously into the expansion of the field. You have people going to school, like I mentioned, to be trade lawyers. You have people going in undergraduate to supply chain management schools a lot more, and logistics careers a lot more. And I feel like the outreach that we have had as a community before has ended up amplifying. So I'm on the board here at the Houston Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association. Our average lunches, were like 40, 50 people there for a few years. Hundreds now show up in the last few years. So it's been huge. It's been a huge change, and definitely driven by.
And do you think that's because people care so much, or do you think it's because people are struggling?
I think it's both. I think that's a huge part of both. There is obviously a massive stress burden that comes with this, right? And people are looking for help. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for anything that they can get.
Where do they get it?
Well, I mean, if I could self-promote for 2 seconds, I would say, yeah. I mean, trade attorneys is a good spot, but also like these organizations, conferences like that, that's what they're here for. They're here for that level of just quick training, quick help, guidance, and more importantly, connecting people to each other.
And if we're thinking about it, what are some of the biggest problems that you're seeing right now? I mean, the industry has changed, right, significantly. I don't want to ask you how it's changed since years, but how has it changed since 2024?
I mean, the amount of just origin verifications have gone through the roof. Valuation verifications have gone through the roof. Classification determinations are more crucial than ever, because if you're, taking a product and combining it with other things, in Mexico or what have you, and continuing to build things out, you better have your classifications absolutely correct. You're going to better have your, your bills of materials correct. You better have all of these steps correct, so we can do those origin verifications. Because now, taking advantage of something like the USMCA, I mean, it changes to the tunes of 50% duties potentially if you do it right versus if you don't, right? And so I think it's just everything has come under the under the magnifying glass, and they're just really.
And you bring up a good point, doing it right. What are some of the things people are doing wrong nowadays? And I know there's lots, but
I mean,
documentation.
Sure. I mean, listen, we still see people who don't have basic documents. I mean, I'll ask my clients, I'm like, okay, well, you said this product is coming from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And your supplier was in China last year. Did you go to Vietnam to check? Do you have pictures of the factory where they're making it? Have you talked to them and anything? Why is the box that it's coming in still written in Chinese, right? If it's coming from Vietnam. And so these are like, we're still talking about, I mean, that's the baseline that's been there. And people are still playing by those rules, and those are just simply insufficient these days.
And what do you tell these people? I mean, where do they even start? If they have, if they're doing so much wrong, where do you start to do it right? Because you're not the one to fix it.
Well, Yeah. It
You're
does
like,
kind of,
you would think.
no, so you're right. You're right. So I try to start with education, right? The idea is get me in front of your decision makers, get me in front of, somebody who can say, let's focus on this harder. I'll get in front of them. I'll do some talks, explain, educate, scare a little bit, right? To be like, hey guys, these are the penalties that we're talking
Yeah.
about, start there and then put in procedures, policies, procedures, help folks do that. And we help them develop that and, work them through there and hope that going forward, everything is more compliant.
And because, okay, in the beginning, we were saying how companies are going to start going broke, right? Because they can't be paying these tariffs. How has that emerged to now? Has that gotten better in the terms of companies have become smarter reacting to these tariffs? Because it was kind of a hit or miss in the beginning and it was just like very abruptly all the time.
It was,
and we
yeah.
didn't know. And now it's like people have kind of caught on how it works.
Yeah.
Not be scared immediately
Correct.
of the Truth Social post, and then you kind of wait for the CSMS message.
Yeah, that's completely correct. Yeah, so obviously 2025 was trial by fire. Every couple days, boom, here's a post. Then we realize, okay, post, then CSMS, executive order, Federal Register, in some order, it's going to pop in there, right? Ideally, it should be in one specific order, but we all know it didn't always happen that way. But now, one of the kind of, I guess you could say, scary things that's come out of that is in recent weeks, we've had true social posts that never materialized in other things.
Right.
We had 100% on Canada if you sign a trade agreement. That went nowhere. Increase in Korean duties because they haven't implemented our trade deal quickly enough. That didn't go anywhere. And then, of course, most recently, the India one. We got the announcement that we're going to lower the tariffs down to 18% and nowhere. So one of the downsides, I would say, of 2025 was, people got used to this is the way it used to work. And now we're here in 2026 and the first part's here, but it hasn't materialized.
I think we definitely have trust issues right now.
That's
lots of trust. And that's wrong. And how do you rebuild trust? I mean, if I'm looking at, simple social skills in our reality of life, building trust is hard. It always is. And when someone messes up, it's even worse or harder to rebuild trust, right? So how do we rebuild this trust? And how do companies rebuild this trust to, trust the process and make sure that they can kind of let go of the uncertain feeling? Is that possible?
No, I think there's always a degree of trade uncertainty. I think that applies even before all of this came in. Again, I feel like these days it's just been magnified. Yeah, the way to really prevent trade uncertainty as best you can, establish good policies and procedures. That's really just what I say.
Education,
yeah. Get these in place, understand that this is how we're going to do it, and these are the people responsible for it. And if things need to be edited, updated, revised because the trade environment has shifted, this is the way that we're going to do it.
Right.
And the idea is when you're talking about policies and procedures, it should never be a static document. It's a living thing because the world changes with you. It's just now you got to change it a lot quicker.
Right. And I think another point is cross-functional training within your company.
Yes.
Like that right now is so crucial. I didn't see really the part before, but now with all these changes, it's really becoming crucial to have to know. Everyone needs to know, and they don't need to know everything, but they need to know the basics.
Correct. And so to that end, actually, it's funny you bring that up. I've been working with some folks recently very closely where, in the past I used to work with just their general counsel or just their logistics teams. And these days we're having trainings. The engineers are there. Finance is there.
Yeah.
Procurement is there because they all need to know these things. And it's as the presenter in those things, you see people doze off or not care. And so what I like to always tell them, I'm like, my objective with this training that I'm giving to you, and you're not in this field, it's not about making sure you learn everything. It's not about making sure you understand everything. It's so that you get a basic idea of why the other folks in your company are asking for things.
Out.
Yeah. Why they're asking for things, how you can help them. And more importantly, if you just hear something here and maybe you don't even remember what it is, but you're like, I remembered having heard that. Let me escalate. I could say to myself, that's a job done.
Right. And that is great that you have those people come into to those meetings. And even before that, I think, there's so many training opportunities. Like, Global Training Center does that as well. It's like once you get into the company, you can kind of get a glimpse into the training already and have like an hour training and understand, very base layer. And then, of course, jump into your meetings because you're going to bring the current environment, which is so necessary after the changes we see on the daily basis. I mean, last week is not the same as this week.
Not anymore.
So last question, how do you see the industry going, like moving forward this year? Like, what is your 2026 prediction?
Retraction, I would say. And I think we've already started to see that. I think a lot of the trade actions have been scaled back to a degree.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, they're still there. They've been scaled down a little bit. Of course, we do have the IEPA case coming up, a decision on there.
Which, oh my God, I'm like, drag it along any longer.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not a betting man. Of all my vices, that's not the one. But if I were a betting man, right after the State of the Union.
Okay.
That's when I would release it.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, of course, please.
No one will. No one will.
Yeah, that's just.
What about USMCA?
Well, yeah, that's a tricky one, right? All three countries have signaled that they want to change it. All three countries have expressed a need to update it. How do we actually come to the table and do it?
And what's that going to do afterwards? I mean, I cannot imagine the hysterical outbreak after it's changing, because then people have to really like adapt and.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's going to mess up a lot for folks, but I think folks are already preparing for that. It's quiet. When USMCA was signed into effect in 2020, well, there are public and open lobbying that you can do. I mean, and I'm not just talking about hiring a lobbyist.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an open public comment section of what would you like the United States to focus on in this next set of trade negotiations.
Right.
And you can submit public comments and you can kind of hope to guide it. And you can follow the negotiation process through there. Kind of what I was alluding to earlier, folks don't realize USMCA tariff shift rules, a lot of them changed last year because that was written into the original USMCA 6 years ago. So we had already a massive change to a lot of origin rules and a massive change to a lot of things that people have been following for 5 years. And then July 1st, 2025, your rule's different. And that was something that we had the opportunity to prepare for. But there's a reason those rules were changing. And that's because people beforehand were lobbying about it as well.
So it does work, lobbying.
It absolutely works out. There are certain rules that change that you could go in there and you can just see, I know exactly who lobbied for that and why, just because of the change of the tariff shift rule. Right. It's very obvious if you know what it is. So yeah, these efforts are out there. And I know you talked about how do you rebuild trust? How do you trust that it's going to be there? Well, you look to the past in this case and say, you know what, it's been done before. I hope we do it again.
Well, Joshua, on that note, I mean, it was great chatting with you. I think we could go on for hours because we both can talk.
I think so, yeah.
And that's great. And I'm so happy this is our first time. Well, first time from the law firm. And then I've had lawyers on, but I mean, it's been great. This is my first ever episode on site.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're the first.
Fantastic.
Great. So thank you so much and have a great rest of the conference. I mean, you live here in Houston, so you don't have to go far.
Yeah, this is an easy trip home for me. So,
well, thank you so much. And for you guys back home, wishing you a great week. It's Monday if you're listening. We recorded on Friday, and I will see you next Monday. Have a great day. Bye.